Hello, everyone. We'll get started in a minute. I'm just going to let people get into the room and get their audio settled. So we'll start in just a second. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Sharona Bollinger. I'm with the LGO admissions team, and I'm joined today by my colleague, Pam Searle. We also have Ted Eckley on the line, our Director of Academics, Research, and Careers, as well as our student panel of LGO 22s, who are all in the midst of their internships currently. So just in case this is your first event with LGO, the Leaders of Global Operations program is a dual degree MS MBA between MIT's School of Engineering and MIT Sloan. LGO is over 30 years old and is designed to develop leaders at the intersections of business and technology. So the application is currently open for LGO, and our round 1 deadline is September 28th, so just under a month away. And our round 2 deadline is December 1st. So we will just do a quick high-level overview of the internship, and then we'll turn it over to our panel of students to introduce themselves and answer some questions. If you have any of your own questions, please use the Q&A, and we'll try to get to some of them at the end of the panel. All right, LGO's research internships are 6 months. You are working full-time at one of our industry partner companies, exploring a project or a problem that the company has, with the aim to improve or solve that problem with applied learning. So you're not taking any classes during that time, you're not paying tuition for that semester, and you're fully immersed into the project. This unique feature of LGO is very much a product of MIT's culture, which is centered around a hands-on approach to learning. Very in line with our motto, mind in hand. So Sloan and LGO also have an action learning mindset and approach to give our students the opportunity to work on real problems with real companies during their 2 years at MIT. LGO is a very industry research oriented program. So the work that you do at your internship is what your master's thesis is based on. All of our students will have a Sloan faculty advisor and an advisor from their specific engineering department. So it's meant to produce a document that is truly a blend of the two disciplines. All of our internships are through one of our partner companies, which you can see listed here. Through networking events and visiting speakers, students get a lot of opportunities to get to know the companies even before they're actually going through the internship matching process. And usually students will be on site for the internship, and internships are located across the country. There are always a handful of internships in the Boston area, as well as a handful of international internships. So location is definitely something to consider when going through the matching process. Students are provided a cost of living stipend for the duration of the internship, and the past 2 years have been more remote than usual, but all of our students were still able to complete their internships despite the unusual conditions. In terms of timeline, the LGO program is a full 24-month program that begins in early June every year. And after that first summer, LGOs are integrated to Sloan to do the MBA core requirements with their MBA cohort. And then there are 2 potential start dates for the internship after that, either the 1st February or the 2nd June. So the internship will take up 1 semester plus the 2nd summer. And that semester is either your 1st spring or your 2nd fall semester. Once you've completed your internship, you'll focus on your thesis for the remaining semesters before graduating. All right, I will pass it on to Ted to talk more in depth about how our students actually get an internship. So Ted, if you want to quickly introduce yourself and then get into the details.
Great. How's the audio? Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes, you sound great.
Good. Okay. So as Sharona pointed out, the internships for LGOs are guaranteed. You don't have to search for your own internship. other MBA students or even master's students in the engineering school need to go find internships. And those internships are generally only over the summer. This is really the basis of your master's thesis, and it's 6 months. So it's 2 semesters, it's unique. And they are sourced by the program office. And I want to emphasize it's actually, and I'm glad Mariko's on Lois, and they both participated in the internship committee, so you can also hear from them. But we have a student committee dedicated to LGO internships and careers. So there's a whole process that we go of creating a profile for the students so that the companies know what the class looks like, what kinds of internships are going to interest them. And in the first summer, you get to meet all of the companies even before you describe what you're interested in. So you may not know all of those companies that Sharona had shown you, but through your first summer, you'll learn about all of them directly from the companies. We have company introduction series that's part of your summer curriculum. And the internship committee really tries to dig in and each year continuous improvement on the whole process of sourcing. And then once the projects are sourced, now the 22s are all on a June start. That was a function of COVID and wanting to have the potential for being on site. I know Felipe has been on site at Nissan, Lois, so there's kind of a mix with the 22s. But for the 24s, we expect all of the internships to be on site at location. We get the projects in, they are evaluated by the internship committee to say, okay, what departments are appropriate for these projects? You'll interview and then create a rank list of the projects that you're interested in potentially getting matched with. We use a matching algorithm that's similar to school choice or hospital residencies. So it's really a two-way. The companies or the projects say how interested they are in you, and you say, okay, these are the projects that I'm most interested in, and aligned. So there's the opportunity to be selective, but you don't custom design your internship. You have a set of projects that you can choose from, and based on your classmates and interest, we have everybody assigned to an internship. And more importantly, and you'll hear from the students, even after you're matched, you create the project, you format it. It's not, okay, here's this project and it's all well-defined, because they want to know what you're interested in, what your capabilities are. So I know there's a lot of anxiety or trepidation. Okay, what am I going to end up doing? What is my project going to be? But you become the author of your own project, and it's just different opportunities. There's also something we refer to as open market and closed market. There are some engineering majors. Louis is here from one of them: chemical engineering, aeroastro engineering, nuclear science and engineering, where we don't have enough projects that necessarily have the right content for those engineering departments. And all the closed market says is that here is a project that is available only to this department. The companies are committing to, yes, we're going to fund an additional project, but we're only going to talk to a subset of students. So it's a pretty sizable commitment from the company. Now, the students, there are some projects in the open market that qualify for those engineering majors as well. So you're somewhat limited in terms of the number of projects that you might have access to. And some companies may have content that's appropriate for one of those majors, but they don't want to restrict it and they want to talk to all the students. So, but the bottom line is that we have both of these mechanisms to ensure that all of the students get a project that is appropriate for their engineering major so they can write their master's thesis and have an interesting and impactful project. So there's not a lot of magic there. It's a lot about algorithms. It's new, but you will also learn. And the 22s didn't get it, but the 23s actually had part of their optimization class where Daniel taught them about the Gale-Shapley matching algorithm, and we'll try and keep that going forward. So that's a quick thumbnail sketch. Happy to answer questions in the open forum afterwards, after you talk with the panel.
Great, thank you, Ted. So now that we kind of have a foundation of what the internship is and how it functions, I will let the student panel introduce themselves and we'll start asking some questions. So if you could all just introduce yourselves really quickly, give your name, your engineering department, and then what your project is, what your internship is, and how it's going so far. So we'll start with Mariko.
Hello, everyone. I'm Mariko, and I'm in LGO 22. My engineering major is in civil and environmental engineering. And I'm currently interning at Amazon and working on their sustainability-related project. And it's been really interesting so far, interacting with a lot of people at Amazon and learning about their sustainability initiative. So if you have any questions regarding Amazon or sustainability, please reach out to me. I'll popcorn to Kenny.
Awesome, thanks, Mariko. Hey everyone, I'm Kenny. Like everyone, I'm also in LGO 22. I'm in the Operations Research Center department. And yeah, there's not too many of us, so happy to chat if anyone's interested in that one in particular. I'm doing my internship at ResMed, which is a new partner company. And that's been very exciting. They make CPAP machines for people with sleep apnea, if you've heard of that. And I am working on their data science team, helping make a kind of brand new product to do ad targeting optimization. So it's been super exciting. I've learned a ton about the type of algorithm that I'm using, and also about marketing in general, which is not an area I was too familiar with before this. But yeah, it's been a great experience, and I've also gotten to hang out quite a bit in San Diego, which I certainly cannot complain about. I'll popcorn to Lois.
Cool. Hi, I'm Lois, and I'm LGO 22 in the chemical engineering department, and I'm currently doing my internship at AMGEN. My project is also data science focused, so I'm doing a natural language processing project looking at manufacturing deviation data. And my experience has also been really great so far. I'm working on a very my internship's very project focused. So it's like, this is what I'm working on, and I spend a lot of time just sitting and thinking about the project. And personally, that's been really fun, and learning a lot about natural language processing, but also incorporating that with my MBA things that I've learned and thinking about implementation. And it's been, yeah, definitely a learning experience. And Felipe, I think you're next.
Yeah, thank you, Lois. So hi, everyone. I'm Felipe. My engineering major is in mechanical engineering. I'm interning at Nissan in Smyrna, Tennessee. As Ted said before, I'm on site, so I'm at the plant. And my project is in the supply chain management department, and I'm researching demand forecast accuracy and supply chain flexibility, and the benefits or the value addition of having a flexible supply chain and the costs that it also brings to the company. And yeah, I think I'm the last one. So
Great, thank you all. So we'll go ahead and get into some questions now. So if you can think back to a couple of years ago when you were applying to LGO, or at least thinking of applying to LGO, what was your impression of the internship at that time, and what surprised you about the internship once you were a student and were actually going through the process? So was there anything unexpected? Was there anything confirmed about your impression of the internship from when you were applying to when you became a student?
Do we want to just jump in?
Yeah, go for it.
All right, I just didn't have too much of an opinion about the internship when I applied. I knew it was a thing, and I was excited about the partner companies. And I was like, cool, I'll like go do a thing, and it'll be nice. What I realized is it's actually a really big and important part of the LGO curriculum in a good way. Like the projects that we do are typically like quite business critical for the companies. They really like having people that have both kind of like the technical and the business lens, and give them like big important problems to tackle. And at least from my experience so far, it seems like they're pretty, at least in, like for me, like they're pretty committed in turning whatever I do into like an actual thing that carries forward like beyond my time in the internship. So that's been like a pleasant surprise.
for me, I think it was a bit of the opposite as Kenny. The internship was a big part of applying to LGO for me. I had researched the partner companies. I saw that there were big names attached to LGO, and I loved that. I also was happy to have a place to apply the knowledge we would be learning throughout the LGO program. I've always been very hands-on, and MIT in general is hands-on, and that was very important to me. In terms of what surprised, I'm not sure anything specific about the internship, but just how big the LGO network is within some of the partner companies, most of the partner companies. You can really rely on them throughout your internship if you make an effort to reach out. I have weekly one-on-ones with a few of the alums inside of Nissan, and that really helps both getting a bigger outreach inside of the company, meeting new people, talking to VPs, directors, and just making that time inside of the company, inside of your internship count. So that's, I didn't know, I had no idea how big the network was.
I think for me, because I'm Chemi and I knew a little bit about like closed market internships, and like I knew that certainly the kind of partner companies I could go to was more limited. I was a little scared, like, what if there's not a project that I'm gonna like, or like, what if I don't end up somewhere that's something I'm interested in? And so I think I was pleasantly surprised that like you have a lot of power to shape what your internship is, even just aside from like the project statement that's given to you initially. So like you come in and there's like a document, like this is what the company thinks the project is going to be, but you have a lot of power to shape it in the direction that you want it to be.
Yeah, so my surprise was similar to what Lois just mentioned. You have a lot of flexibility even after you get matched. In my example, after I started my internship at Amazon, they were like, they want to reach net zero carbon by 2040. And there are a bunch of things that you could do. So let's discuss and choose. So I had maybe 5 or 6 options actually, after I started interning at Amazon to choose from. So that was pretty cool.
So when you were going through the interview process and you were looking at projects and kind of their scopes, what were the most important factors to you at that time when you were considering projects and how you were ranking them? Kind of what were you prioritizing when you were making those decisions?
Well, for me, I was not interested in location at all. I know a lot of people were, and that was a big part of their choosing and ranking process. I was not looking at that except for the ones that were outside of the US. Those I did not even look at. And a lot of people were very interested on those. But other than that, if it was inside of the US, I didn't even look at where it was. I was very focused on the project scope, in which department it would be located within the company, what the project subject was, and how it aligned with my own interests. So I took that, I did my interviews, and after the interviews, how I felt within the interview was also a big part of how I ranked the projects. What I felt within the interview and how I related with the people that were interviewed.
I can jump in. For me, it was like my interest is in kind of the intersection of data science and business, and so I was specifically looking for types of projects that were in that space. So that was already like that took like kind of a bunch off the table. And then after that, to Felipe's point, what I was looking at is like the company and the team. Like, did I feel like the people I would be working with would be good people to work with? And then I did have some kind of location preferences that went into my ranking, but it was more just like, are there any places where I am like not willing to live for 6 months? It wasn't more like it was more like a litmus test, like a yes, no versus a, I care a lot about being in this one place or this other place.
I can jump in. So for me, I actually came to LGO because I wanted to pivot into the area of sustainability. So for my ranking, I looked specifically at sustainability related projects, which there were plenty. So yeah, and also I guess as an international student, there is a constraint where some partner companies unfortunately can't host international students. So that was another thing I had to look into. But yeah, those two are the main things that I looked into when selecting projects.
Yeah, and for me, it's a closed market. I didn't like do the whole ranking things. It's a little different. So for me, it was more like, here's this project. I thought it looked interesting. I talked to AMGEN. It was like, cool, good. So yeah.
How was the transition into your internship? So it's definitely, still a weird time for everyone, and maybe isn't the standard internship experience for LGOs, but kind of what was the experience once you've been matched and you're preparing to move, or at least, stop taking classes for a while? How's that transition back into a workforce been? And were there any resources that you found really helpful during that time?
I can go first. So for me, I'd say it was pretty smooth. I am remote, so I didn't like have to move anywhere or do anything like that. So for me, it was more like they sent me my computer. There you go. You're on your internship. So I'd say overall, like, it was very quick. Also, AMGEN has hosted a lot of LGO interns over the years. And so they really understand like what LGO interns are and sort of like that whole thing. So when I joined, it was super easy to get going. And then also because, like I said, like I'm very project focused. So I came in, it was like, cool, here's your project, here's your data, get going. So it almost felt like, something that you might do in a class where it was like, cool, here's your project, you can go start working on that. So for me, that felt like a very easy transition.
I can jump in. It was a smooth transition for me as well. I moved, I'm not remote, as I said before, but my supervisor had already like arranged for everything inside of the company. I had a laptop, I had my accounts, I had a VPN access if I wanted to stay home for the day, because a lot of people are still remote. I'll say I had one, not problem, but hard times was that as an international, I did not have a driver's license in the US, and Nissan actually provides every intern with a car. So you can, I mean, I was living in Nashville and going to Smyrna to the plant, so I could not walk or take public transportation. And so it took me like a week or 2 weeks to actually get my vehicle, but gladly I had a friend there, Sean from it's an LGO 22, also interned at Nissan, so we were like drive sharing, and we still do to this day. But it's a smooth transition. Like LGO supports you with stipends, so you can pay for your housing there. So no big problems for me.
I can jump in. I guess it's a funny story now, but I had a small hiccup with my background check with Amazon. So my background, the start date got pushed back by 2 weeks, but that was the only, I guess, hiccup in my onboarding process. Otherwise, it was really smooth.
Yeah, the only one thing that I will add is that, at least for me, like my supervisor was very like down and willing to talk about the project even before the internship started. So in the spring semester, we had a couple of calls where we just talked about how he was thinking about the project, and like the scope had already evolved a little bit before I even started. We also like had a meeting with him as well as my 2 faculty advisors, so they could like meet each other before we got started, and just talking with them before, you know, the actual official start date just made things go even smoother. When we got there, he was asking me things like, you know, do I prefer Windows or Mac, or like, you know, because of COVID, we had to figure out like when I was going to move to San Diego, since their office hadn't opened yet. So things like that, they were like very open to engaging even before the official like June 1st start day.
Yeah, I know in past years, and hopefully this is still true, that sometimes the second years can coach students going into internships of like, oh, hey, I was also at this company. Here's like a forewarning about some weird things that sometimes happen with this company, just so you're not totally surprised if your laptop takes a month to get to you. So there's a lot of passed down knowledge that the LGOs are usually able to communicate for each company. So kind of speaking of the LGO community and how it relates to internships, how have you been able to stay in contact with your classmates during this time? Do you feel like you moved somewhere and you're meeting entirely new people and you don't really talk to your classmates, which I assume is not the case given the usual LGO enthusiasm for a community, but how have you maintained your relationships? And you may be another unusual case because you've been remote for a long time, but any good stories or memories that you've had since you've been on internship?
I can start this one. I think, oh yeah, well, Marika and Lois are in Boston, so they automatically have friends. But so in I moved to San Diego like a month ago, and we actually have like a small cohort of LGOs that are sort of like spread around Southern California. So I've definitely kept in touch with them. We did Legoland and Disney on 2 consecutive weekends, which was a lot of theme park. But so like that's been really good to have. But we also keep in touch, or at least I keep in touch with classmates just informally through like WhatsApp or Zoom. And actually one thing that we do, which we've been doing for over a year now, is we have like a virtual cookbook club that Felipe is in as well, and Lois sometimes will crash to eat. But we have basically one of us like teach everyone else some recipe each week. Marco also has, everyone here does cookbook club. So yeah, it's been really fun. Like we basically have like 4, 5, 6-ish people each week, and we just like cook something yummy and catch up.
Yeah, I'll just say that cookbook club has been great. I'm remote. I'm remote. I mean, I'm not in Boston, right? So I'm away. I have one other person there, Sean, which is great. We just do stuff together. On the more formal side of keeping it in touch, I didn't bring it up a lot, but we do have like a continuation of our summer leadership class, which goes on for the duration of the internship, and we have a few deliverables. So we do have like kind of a, not blog posting, but a forum where we post whatever is happening in our internships, and can read everyone else's posts. We also have some like use case reveals. We reveal each other's project summaries. We give ideas. That's on the more formal side of keeping in touch. On the informal side, we'll keep in touch every week through Cookbook Club. Or on the 4th of July, a few of us had a trip to the Ozarks. So that was good as well. So I'd say there is no keeping away from LGOs throughout this program and afterwards.
Yeah, and for me, besides from being in Boston and being remote, because that's sort of a special case, but I would add, for AMGEN, we have like weekly meetings with all the AMGEN interns, because there's 5 of us, so we have like a weekly call, and that's a good time to like just check in and like how's everyone going and talk about interning at AMGEN and stuff like that. And then I have a planned trip with my LGO summer core team, so we're gonna like do a big trip together and like stay in touch, and that's super fun. Yeah, so definitely staying in touch with everybody.
Yes, I'm also in Boston working remote, and it's been fun because I'm able to like connect with people who are still in Boston. I'm not sure how many of our class are in Boston. I would say maybe like more than 10-ish. Yeah, so it's been fun to connect with people who are interning at other companies and hear about different internships, how their internship is going, and yeah, catching up. So it's been fun.
All right, so I think we have some questions from the audience. So one is about, how has your internship been different to previous work experience? Does it seem more demanding? Are the expectations different because you are this LGO intern? Just how has it compared to your prior work experience?
I can start. For me in particular, it's a lot more of a individual work. When my prior work experience, I was already managing a few people, and I had not as much as an individual contributor role. And here, not only it's very individual contributing, but sometimes just if you don't, I think what I want to say is, if you don't give yourself short-term goals and keep pushing forward with your project, it can be easy to lose motivation just because it's such a long-term project, 6 months, and you have one project to complete on your own. So if you don't, it's a bit very different from my past work, and I do keep having to set goals for myself, like every week and every month, what I want to achieve there. Otherwise, I can lose track, and then 3 months have gone by, and you look back and, oh, what did I do? So yeah, I just keep having to push myself on, not on my own, because I have a team, I have people that can support me, But yeah, I think for me, that's the main difference.
Yeah, I can talk to, I'd say for me, it's like not super different, like the whole thing, but like the question of, is it like more demanding because you are an LGO, if you feel like there's pressure? For me, I would say like, I think I was scared about that. I thought that like, oh my gosh, these projects are going to be really hard and they're going to expect so much of me. But I think that like, I have learned a lot from being an LGO. So I think that maybe it is more demanding, but it doesn't necessarily like feel that way because I feel like I am capable of stepping up to that plate, if that makes sense, if that like is understandable. So I think that I've been like pleasantly surprised that like, hey, like I actually am able to apply things that I learned and maybe do a project that I wouldn't have been able to do before.
Yeah, for me, it's similar in some ways and different in others. I come from a management consulting background, so I'm pretty accustomed to doing these like, you know, for an internship it's long, but for real life it's sort of like a short-term project that has like a stopping point. But what's been different is in the past, I guess I've been more on the business side of things, and I've worked with data scientists like maybe in more of like a product manager type role, but to Felipe's point, on the internship, like you are the individual contributor. You're like, I'm actually like building a thing and coding it myself and having to figure out how to like work with AWS, which is like apparently something that happens at real companies, but that we don't typically learn about in class. So it's been really great, like hands-on experience. And in the future, I do still think I want to be in like more of a managerial role, but having been an individual contributor and like executed a project will be like a very helpful thing to bring with me as I kind of carry on in the space.
Yeah, so for me, there are two major, I guess, differences from my previous work. One being that, similar to Kenya, I also used to be more in like a business side of the things. So yeah, it's the way I'm tackling work is a little bit different, like looking more at data and trying to figure out like how to code and things. And yeah, and then the second difference is that I used to work for a Japanese company for 5 years. So the whole culture is totally different. So like that's been a very interesting journey for me, trying to fit into the American way of doing things.
All right, I think we have time for one last quick question, but how did your coursework that you did before going on your internship help with your internship? And I think Lois touched on this a bit of you know, you do learn a lot that you can then actually apply in an industry workplace, but are there any kind of examples or particular courses that you reference a lot on your internship?
Yeah, I can hop in. The first thing that comes to mind is I didn't know really anything about operations coming into the program. So like our summer class, we took like intro to operations. And then last spring, I took operations strategy. And like, I don't apply like maybe directly all of those concepts, but like the way of thinking about things like in an operational mindset is something that I have definitely applied.
I'll echo Lois, intro to operations and operations management. That's basically what I use in my supply chain management project every day. I had also not a lot of experience with that. And both courses are really helpful with the internship in general.
I'll give a different perspective. My project is not very operations focused. So although those classes did teach me a lot, I am not directly applying them. But two things that I am using. One is in the MBA core and in the LGO core, you take a bunch of like leadership and communications classes. And that's super useful because as part of the internship, you are also like engaging with stakeholders and trying to get buy-in for whatever you're doing. And then the second thing is for me, I am like building a machine learning algorithm. And so the classes I've taken, in particular, one machine learning under an optimization lens is something that I like use a lot and is informing a lot of the way I'm approaching this actual project.
All right, we're a little past time, so I just want to thank the student panel again for joining us today and sharing your experiences, and also thank you to Ted for sharing your expertise. We have more events through the fall, so as we get closer to our application deadlines, I encourage everyone to attend more of those. We have Preview Day coming up next Friday, so check it out if you have time. If you have more questions about the internship or any other aspect of the LGO program or application, please feel free to email us at lgo@mit.edu. We're happy to answer questions at any point in the process. So thank you all for joining us today, and I hope this clears up some of the mystique around the LGO internship, and I hope everyone has a great day.
Thanks, Sharona.